Check, check, 1 2. Check, check, 1 2. Check, check, 1 2. Check, check, 1 2.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check.
Do you have any PowerPoints or anything? Not from me. Okay. And I'll see if anyone else has. I thought it was.
Cecilia get back?
She did. Yep.
Doing okay?
Back at it. Yep. I've got a blanket in my car. Well, I got three garbage sacks full of donation clothes that I haven't dropped off yet. I'm sure we can find some.
Who wants this, Jody?
I don't know, I think we have interest in some people brought their own. I'll tell you what. Can we put it here in somebody?
Yes.
You got it.
Who knows, Sean? If Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Sharon.
I think I did.
I guess I could wipe off the one that's over. They sent me, hey, honey, for you. by default.
Now they decided I have to wear glasses.
Uh-oh. That happens. And then I stay.
Skeeter wasn't.
Mhm.
It's gonna be so hot. Yeah.
I like the sweetness.
No. The only thing that would have made this ad sharper is if Dayton's picture was.
Had a
made
picture
that
of
way.
Dayton in the corner.
Yeah,
We asked about that.
yeah, and they didn't want to do
Uh, No,
it.
no, he says, is there a way we can be able to affiliate Dayton with our ad? And they're like, no, we can't advertise our employees for any type of entity.
I had a picture of him running the bases. I also had a picture of when he showed up in my office when his teammates were in trouble when I was the dean.
Yep. All right. I have 6 o'clock. Everybody ready?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Bless you.
I need all the help I can get.
Okay. We are calling this meeting to order, the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees June meeting. And it is 6 o'clock. All right, a few comments to share with you. So first of all, the Garden City Community College meat judging team was selected to be the parade marshal at the 2022 Western Motor Beef Empire Days Parade. That was this past Saturday. Additionally, the meat judging program is celebrating 35 years here at the college today, so that's pretty cool. Dr. Clint Alexander was selected as the 2022 Carcass Show judge for the Beef Empire Days. Remember, he's our professor of animal and food science. We had 2 Garden City Community College employees win the 2022 NISOD Excellent Award. That was Johanna Gonzalez from Student Support and Shelley Lolliker, who's one of our science instructors. This award demonstrates excellence in professionalism, commitment to learning, relationships with students, and relationships with their colleagues. And it's an award that's nominated from their peers. NISOD stands for National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development. And then lastly, I would extend our pride to Trustee Leonard Hitz, who provided cowboy poetry as a fundraiser for the Garden City Community College Endowment. Thank you, thank you. We do not have an SGA report, I'm guessing, right?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Any new employees? No. All right. So first of all, folks, I'd like you just to notice that the agenda in front of you has been amended and rearranged a little bit. Item I and J were added to the consent agenda. They were on our agenda in another spot. So
Next, H, I, and J. Sorry.
HIJ.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you. Please keep me on the straight and narrow. All right, so, no, it is. Okay, so on consent agenda, I
Can
would like
we,
to pull.
sorry to interrupt there. We have a motion to amend the agenda to acknowledge that the agenda is being changed from what was originally submitted.
I second.
All right, so we have a move and a second to approve the agenda change as presented. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right, so the motion carries to pass the agenda change. In the consent agenda, is there any items that any of the board would like to pull?
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull item D, athletic insurance.
All right. All right, I would like to pull items E, F, any others?
Do we have to read the resolution for keepers?
Yes, we will.
K2.
So we might as well pull
Or G.
G.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, and the parts of C and parts of B, and H and I.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, H, I. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. So let's start with item D, athletic insurance renewal. Question?
Madam Chair, on page 56 of that proposal, I just had a questions about who is covered on the up the middle way down. Talks about cheerleaders in the fall. Leaves out this question of whether rodeo ought to be in that one. And also women's cheerleaders fall too. Don't they act in spring too?
Fall and spring.
And is rodeo, don't they participate in fall? And say, would they not be covered if they're not in this list?
So we, we cover them during the activity season, what they classify as the activity season. Their activity season for rodeo is in the spring. They do have fall, but they are not considered, that is not considered a activity season. So what we designate underneath the insurance is when their classified activity season is designated. So, I mean, we include them there, so even their off seasons are included. So when they're out practicing, you know, if football's in the spring, even though it's not their current season, coverage still covers anything that is considered to be off-season activity. But what's listed within this insurance policy is what their activity season is designated as.
In the fall, aren't they sort of on an individual basis if they go to,
They do, yeah. I mean, it's,
because it's out of season?
mhm. Yeah, baseball traveling in the fall, they're still covered, but they're not listed in both arenas, it's only during the activity season that they're included on the policy.
Now, is it-
With that being said, cheerleaders, don't they cheer in basketball season, which would be the spring semester?
Yeah, where it says fall for cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be spring. Yeah,
Should be
Should
both.
be both.
so
Both.
it should be fall and spring.
Yeah.
It's listed underneath fall, but it should say spring as well.
Yeah, that was my question, you know. Make sure they're
Making
covered.
sure that we have spring coverage as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I would point out the statement below that. It says a covered person is insured while participating in sponsored and supervised activities of the policyholder, such as games, practice, conditioning, and travel. So does that include off-season still?
It does.
Okay.
Yes.
As long as they're covered.
We should just scratch out the full.
Oh, well,
Well, you got,
let's clarify this. Page 56 is our current coverage. It's like, because we amended our renewal. I'm like, oh, that's not right here.
It's
Nine.
It still says.
Still says fall.
Still says fall. For cheerleaders.
Page 59 is our new one, right?
Mhm.
And it still has just the full.
Right, so. Let me pull something up. I think it ties back. So this was the first review, and we did amend the coverage, because Ally and Mike and I talked about it. However, the premium on our regular insurance didn't change. It did change on the catastrophic insurance, and so unfortunately, the wrong information, I think, is in, but I will pull the renewal and make sure that that is correct. And I appreciate your eyes on that. Because it was brought up about football. Why wasn't football in all season? So, but I'll do that right now.
Yeah, but I think to your point there, as far as coverage, coverage is overreaching regardless of the season. It's still, as Merritt alluded to, it's still covered there as long as it is a college-sponsored supervised activity.
All right, I just want to make sure because
Yeah.
those technicalities can get you in
So-
trouble all the time.
Right, so
Right.
on the one that we will actually sign, the men say baseball, basketball, cheerleaders, cross-country, football, fall and spring, golf, soccer, track. Women's basketball, cheerleaders, cross-country, rodeo, soccer, softball, track and field, and volleyball. So all those seasons are removed.
Rodeo.
And so the reason, so we submit a census. That census comes from student services. They didn't have any men on the census on page 53. I don't know. So we will follow up on that if there's any. So do we want to table that until clarify that? These premiums?
Board members, I think it would be a good idea to table this to the next month. Are we
Believe so.
okay?
Will have to be at a special meeting because it expires in the end of the month.
We could add
Expires
it.
end of June.
We could add it on there on
To our other-
June 29th.
Yeah. Okay,
Have the tree coming up.
Mhm.
Right, do it before or after.
Mhm.
good idea.
Yep.
Okay, so it looks like we are going to not vote on item D and table it to another meeting. Guys, okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Item E, the capital outlay resolution. So I'm gonna let Dr. Ruda explain what this is about.
So this information before you, by statute, every 5 years, a resolution must be passed by the governing board for state of Kansas statute for formal action to be able to extend the mill levy that can be applied towards capital outlay. By state statute, we can only, community colleges can only levy up to 2 mills for capital outlay. Currently, we are at 1, which is where our previous resolution stands from 5 years ago. This resolution is to be able to extend levying for capital outlay for the next 5 years. Within this, we have presented, so because we only do this on a 5-year basis, our recommendation is that we be able to set the resolution, include the resolution to where the board has authority to levy up to 1.5 mills. However, our recommendation as we go forward and as we go into budget retreats is that we maintain at the 1 mill levy that we're at. However, it gives us latitude or authority to where at any point over the next 5 years, if increase is needed, that we have that authority. But it is not our recommendation that we increase. As we go through the budget planning process, our intent is to hold the line on the capital outlay at 1. But this resolution is asking for the threshold to be set at 1.5 mills. So there is that capability if needed. But within this, again, we will approve the resolution. And then once the resolution is passed, we will publish this in the newspaper for 3 consecutive weeks as per statute. At that point, pending any public comments that are received, if no public comments are received, then the resolution passes as approved tonight. And then we will be able to file this with the county clerk for the next 5-year period.
It's allowed us to, if we wanted to, cannot exceed 2 mills. We get it 1 mill all along. We want it at picked up to 1.5 mil in case we need the extra half somewhere down the road.
Correct. I mean, it's impossible to forecast and look where things are going to be at in the next 5 years. So as we've had conversation, it's providing that latitude. However, just to be able to, publicly and for transparency state, it is not our intention to increase, but we are giving notice that it is the ability at any point over the next 5 years that it could be. But we hold the line and maintain at the 1
Yeah.
for this year.
This year, because it's not in effect.
Correct. For next, yeah.
If we don't do that, and then we get down the road and find that we really need to benefit. We can go back.
If we pass the resolution and maintain it at 1,
Yes, and we're allowed to go up to 2, but we didn't say we were going to do, we're gonna stay at 1, and then we get down the road 3 years from now. Oh, shoot, we should have had an extra mill. Is there any way you can ever go back in that 5-year period?
yeah, so my understanding is that the option for setting that level happens on a 5-year occurrence. So I don't believe you can, in year 2, if we were to set it at 1 tonight, and then 2 years down the road, we realize we need authority to be able to increase, the way that I understand the statute is that we would have to wait until that next 5-year cycle in order to pass the resolution on that.
So we would be a student by going ahead and approving it for 1.5 mils, knowing, saying right now, we don't need the other half, but if we have to, we want the
That-
latitude of going for that other half mil.
Correct. Yeah, that's our recommendation based upon how the statute reads. Yes,
Emergency cushion.
correct.
Any other questions? Do we need to read this as a resolution?
We do.
Yeah.
Thank God
Really
for
owe
some.
me tonight. I mean,
Thank God.
really are gonna owe me.
Thank God.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-5, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Garden City Community College, Finney County, Kansas, declaring its intention to make an annual tax levy for a capital outlay fund, whereas the Board of Trustees, the trustees of the Garden City Community College, Finney County, Kansas, the community college is authorized by KSA 71-501 to make an annual tax levy of not to exceed 2 mils for a period of not to exceed 5 years upon all taxable tangible property within the community college district for the purpose of construction, reconstruction, repair, remodeling, additions to, furnishing and equipping of community college buildings, architectural expenses incidental thereto, and the acquisition of real property for use as building sites or for educational programs. And whereas the trustees of the community college have heretofore in 1972 adopted a resolution creating a special building fund from an annual tax levy, and thereafter in 1977, 1982, 1987, 1992, 1997, 2002, 2007, 2012, and 2017, adopted resolutions continuing such annual tax levy in accordance with KSA 71-501C, and whereas the trustees of the community college have certified the county clerk the last annual tax levy authorized under the current capital outlay authorization, and whereas the provided by KSA 71-501C, the trustees hereby declare it to be necessary and advisable and in the best interest of the community college to renew its authority to make a like annual tax levy in the amount upon the conditions and in the manner as hereinafter specified. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Garden City Community College, Section 1, that the trustees of the community college be authorized to make an annual tax levy for a period not to exceed 5 years in an amount not to exceed 1.5 mil upon all taxable tangible property within the community college district, that the proceeds from such annual capital outlay tax levy shall be collected and paid into the community college's capital outlay fund and shall be used for the construction, reconstruction, repair, remodeling, additions to, furnishing, and equipping of community college buildings, architectural expenses incidental thereto, and the acquisition of real property for use as building sites or for educational programs. Section 2, that this resolution shall be published once each week for 3 consecutive weeks in the Garden City Telegram, a newspaper of general circulation in the community college district as required by KSA 79-501, and that the said annual tax levy shall be made as aforesaid unless a sufficient petition in opposition signed by not less than 5% of the qualified electors of the community college district is filed with the county election officer of Finney County, Kansas within 60 days following the last publication of this resolution. Section 3, that in the event a petition in opposition is filed, the trustees shall cause the question of such additional annual tax levy to be submitted to the voters of the community college district at an election called for that purpose is provided by law, provided however that if no sufficient petition in opposition is so filed, then immediately upon expiration of said 60-day period, the clerk of the Board of Trustees shall certify a copy of this resolution to the county clerk of Finney County, Kansas, and to the county clerk of each and every county in which any part of the community college district shall then lie, adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Garden City Community College, Finney County, Kansas, on June 14, 2020.
Well done.
Bravo.
Can I get a second? I read it.
I
Right?
second.
Okay.
I second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to accept the resolution number 20225 as adeptly read by Ms. Shanda. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution carries. All right, our next item is item E, the SAS approval. Oh, item F, thank you. Appreciate that. And again, I'll turn it over to Dr. Ruda.
So I'll provide a very high-level overview of this particular request, and then we'll also allow Brad Palmer, who is present with us tonight from Aleutian, to be able to talk and answer any of the specific details that you may have. But at the very cursory level, this is a request that has been over a year in discussion here at the college. As we've gone through much of our master planning, long-range planning, the move within IT to go from what is called on-premise servers storage. And currently we have around 17 servers that hold all of our student information, data, software on this campus. Each of those individual servers is maintained individually by our IT staff, which is very tedious. Additionally, anytime that there are updates to any of our software, then that is a manual process of going in and running the updates and updating the software that is on the servers. Many of our servers are nearing what is considered to be end of life. So at this point, again, over the course of this last year, we've been evaluating the need to start looking at the transition to cloud hosting, cloud storage. And within this, we have had conversations with Aleutian about two different options that they have for cloud hosting services. The first is managed cloud, and the second, which we are recommending for consideration and approval tonight, is what's called the SaaS. And the SaaS is simply software as a service. And so versus updates being pushed out, I guess in layman's terms, I will say this, and then Brad can correct me and tell you the truth. But in layman's terms, instead of Aleutian pushing out updates for us in DataTel, and then our IT staff having to go in there and manually correct anything that may have been broken during the updates or anything within the system that has to be fixed, the updates that are pushed out with the software as a service happen simultaneously. They are to date as far as the updates being made. Currently, we have updates that, as they are pushed out, don't happen automatically. So we have to put them on basically a schedule for us to go out and run automatically as we transition to the software as a service. These updates are happening simultaneously there as the updates are being pushed out. The additional aspects of this that I would mention are that it does provide enhanced cybersecurity protocols. So as we talk about cybersecurity threats, as we've seen all over in the media about different organizations experiencing cybersecurity threats there by email and individuals being able to gain access to networks. By being able to have this as a cloud hosted service, there are enhanced protocols that are put into place with this. And we're not able to realize what those benefits are going to be, but we have had conversations with our cybersecurity insurance providers that by making this transition, there will be savings that are incurred because we are taking proactive steps to be able to protect our network through this transition. The additional aspects of it there, I'd mentioned that we have servers that are reaching end of life. Just to give you an idea of what the replacement of those servers would be roughly $150,000 for us to replace those servers and maintain on-premise storage of our software. By this investment, we are eliminating the need for us to go out and purchase and have servers on-premise on campus. So again, there would be savings that we incur over the course of this implementation that allow us to be able to not have to have those purchases and make those ongoing purchases with servers. The other, the other aspects that I would allude to, and I'm going to jump to page 86 in your packets. So I want to give a high-level overview, and then I'll yield to Brad to come up and talk through things here as well. But I wanted to go through the investment summary and just outline the administration's recommendation and our thought processes behind this. As we look at this, this is an investment. This is a long-term investment that we are making in the institution. You know, with this, as you take a look at year one, the SaaS software at $380,484, that is an additional expense that is incurred for us to be able to transition to the cloud hosting services. So on top of what we are paying currently for our annual service agreements with Lucian, this is an additional expense that would happen in year one of $380,000. As we look on down, you know, I would ask you to look, so the total fees for this 18-month implementation, the total fees for the SaaS software as well as professional services would equal $666,125 over the course of the 18-month period of implementation. As we have worked with Lucian and had conversations, and Brad had brought forward the recommendation here this last week through discussions that they've had with Lucian. If the board was to take action by June 30th, Lucian is offering a $100,000 benefit or savings write-off that would be included and is included within this investment summary. So if the agreement is signed by June 30 of this year, then there is a $100,000 savings or credit that you would see listed within the transitional support credits. I think as we go into this and talking about the path forward, you know, just for the board's understanding, we have had these conversations ongoing for over a year. This isn't something that's just came to us and we're looking at how it is that we need to make this investment. We've had these conversations and we actually built in the cost of the SaaS cloud hosting software into the grant agreement that we had secured through the legislative direct spending with Senator Moran's office. So we've been forward thinking over a year ago as we had filled out and submitted this grant application for grant spending to be able to cover the $380,000 expense that you see for SaaS software. And that is included within that legislative direct spending that we have. So really the additional costs that you would have would be roughly $280,000 that we have identified and been able to determine how it is over the course of the next 2 fiscal years that we will be able to cover the professional services, which are Lucian working side by side with our staff to be able to migrate and move our software and our information to the cloud. This is an Amazon Web hosted service. So it is a notable and recognizable service that Lucian works with. But, you know, again, I think between the grant funds that have been secured, between what it is that we've identified in additional general fund expenses, we have the funds to be able to move this project forward. Additionally, what this also provides are really a myriad of additional support tools for our production offices, such as admissions, financial aid, business office, institutional research. By moving to the cloud and being able to enhance what it is that we have available through Lucian, there are additional tools and features that we don't have access to because we host on premise, that by this migration, we will be able to enhance how it is that services with students are through the admissions experience, through the billing on the student side, as well as reporting and being able to have some additional features there within institutional research. So that is that's a summary, but I also want to yield Brad Palmer, who is with the Lucian, flew in from Austin, Texas. And I appreciate appreciate his willingness and ability to be here and speak to you there just about the benefits on a more technical scale, but be able to answer questions that you may have there with this particular investment that we've presented. So Brad?
Anyway, I tell you what, did a great job. In fact, if you want a job over to Lucy and doing that, let me know.
Can't have it.
No, yes, right. No go.
But I mean, it's something, we have over 500 institutions in the cloud, as you talked about, either SaaS or managed cloud. And a lot of it is for exactly the reasons you're talking about. But it's also, I mean, risk mitigation. You talked about cybersecurity, but it's also disaster recovery. I mean, here in Kansas, may have a tornado or two, or maybe straight line winds every once in a while. And it's the ability to not worry about, hey, is it going to destroy our servers? Is it going to destroy our campus? Is it going to cause damage? It's the ability for people to work from home, to get paid, students to be able to learn regardless of what happens. And that's at all our institutions. And then you start talking about the ability to support it because right now it takes basically Garden City people to upgrade and maintain the servers, to upgrade and maintain the software. Well, we take all that on for you. And what we're seeing today, and I've been around the country with several institutions over the last couple of years since COVID, is you have these technical companies that are allowing people to work from home. So they're starting to go after these technical resources that institutions have and paying them to stay at home and paying them significantly more. Well, this also protects you from that. It's a more of a risk aversion piece. But at the end of the day, we're also pushing out as we do updates, as we're creating things that are better for the students, allows them to learn better, giving them a better experience, giving us faculty and staff a better experience. We're pushing those out real time. I mean, I always look at my phone. It updates automatically. I just pick it up in the morning. It's all updated. That's how this works. All of a sudden you walk into work the next day, the students log in and they have new functionality. And we're constantly pushing those things out because all we do is higher education. What we're concerned about is the student experience, student success, and also how can they pay for their experience here. So out of those solutions, we're continually adding capabilities, and we want the faculty and staff and the students to have that at their fingertips as it comes out, and you can start utilizing it. And it also allows Dr. Ruda to take his resources and focus on the things that really matter to the students. I mean, nobody's out there saying, hey, by the way, we maintain the best servers in the United States. What they say is, hey, we've got the best student experience in the United States. And I know that's something that Garden City does a great job of. Dr. Ruda and his staff do, and we want to make sure that's the focus. So that's what we're seeing in a lot of institutions, and that's where they're all headed. And I tell you what, I was happened to be on the phone with another institution a couple hours away from here. Their name may be Barton. They were asking me, they said, how you're going to be at Garden City, what are they doing? So it's nice to see that y'all are taking the step forward right there. And if there's any questions, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to dig into any of those things for you.
I have a question or two questions, actually. They're going to take up more bandwidth, or will we have to improve that?
Basically, you're going to be seeing, I mean, it requires internet access, but the nice thing is internet access from anywhere. It's not really going to be so much, you need more bandwidth. We're going to have better utilization of the bandwidth we had. Like I said, I'm out of Austin, Texas, so I deal with a lot of Texas institutions. So I was talking to one that went to the cloud a couple of years ago, and they were saying, hey, the performance is better than when it was on campus, mainly because we utilize a lot of the capabilities that Amazon has. We have network engineers. I mean, we have dozens of them that's all they do is work on the network and make sure we're utilizing your network to the fullest extent.
And the second question, on page 86 there has total fees, which is what President Ruda was referring to. And then underneath it has managed cloud fees. What's the difference between those two?
Basically, managed cloud means you're able to take in customizations to the cloud, whereas SaaS, you bring in industry best practices. One of the things, and that's a big point, and I'm glad you brought that up. Because what ends up happening with a lot of institutions and companies in general is they start utilizing the software and they start putting in customizations they think they need. Well, over the years, those customizations stay there. It's expensive. It takes a lot of effort to maintain those. When you go SaaS, we're using industry best practices. All we do is higher education. We're taking these industry best practices from, we work with little over 70% of the community colleges in the US. We're taking all those best practices and making sure those are put into the system. Now, that doesn't mean it's rigid. It gives you flexibility, but it also wants to keep you pointed down that road of, hey, let's do what's best practice in the industry. And that way you aren't spending time maintaining those. Because when you go manage cloud, we will take care of the baseline and keep that upgraded. But any customizations you bring to the cloud, you have to maintain on your own. So that's just additional work you don't need to be doing.
So the managed cloud is probably not the best way to go.
We're talking to every one of our customers and talking to them about how we get them SaaS. That's what everybody's been doing for a long time in industry. We started adopting that a few years ago here in higher education, and it just makes everything work a lot better. And allows the institution to focus on the things that truly matter, that are differentiators for the students, faculty, and staff.
So essentially, and Brad, you might mention this there too, and with the investment summary that is listed, I can get that to you. So you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Subscriptions.
So I see you should have the investment summary I'm looking at as well, but you see the current subscriptions and how those are declining. Basically, that's as we take you off your current system. So obviously we'll still support that through this migration. But the idea is that eventually just goes away and then everything becomes that SaaS software. At the end of the day, what you're looking at is as you're going through this progress, the average increase you're going to be paying is about 148,000. But once you get steady state, once you go fully to the SaaS version, you're only looking at about 80K a year or so more. When you take into account the savings you have off of servers, the ability to repurpose staff, the savings you have on cybersecurity, which is becoming more and more important. And then we just actually had a discussion with a colleague customer in the state of Mississippi, where there's compliance issues that they just don't have the people to do from a technical perspective, and it keeps you in compliance. We are, not to get too technical, but we do have SOC compliance reports, which are required by, we have SOC 1 and 2, which is required by the federal government. And so we do that. We just finished nobody likes an audit, but we just finished ours about a month ago and came away with no findings whatsoever. So not only that, when you're talking about your cybersecurity, and Dr. Ruda already talked about that, they're going to give you a discount because they know we're using industry best practices around cybersecurity. So even though there's an increase, I think it's more than offset by the benefits you get, as well as some of the offsets from hardware and cybersecurity insurance.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify the line item that says total fees, that's the subscription that we're wanting to buy, not managed cloud total.
Correct. Yeah.
That's correct, yes. And
And
so
why is that
basically,
even listed there? Is it?
it was just to
Cadillac?
show the options between
Giving
the
you the
two.
options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
And basically SaaS is less expensive because it's easier to maintain.
okay, I get it. So that brings me to my next question. How long have you guys been in the business? And have you had any breaches of security?
We've been, as far as being in the cloud business, we've been in the cloud business. I'm just making a guess here, but it's been in excess of, 10 years. We went SaaS with actually Colleague first. We're also SaaS and Banner now, but Colleague, we went first. We've been SaaS with Colleague probably 7 years. Basically, and of course, we haven't had any breaches. Now, that doesn't, you know, of our data center, that doesn't say, and when I say ours, it's the AWS. We haven't had anybody breach that way. Now, that's not to say, you know, whenever you're talking cybersecurity, that's a bit of a joint effort, because if, I'm sure y'all have all heard of phishing attacks. Hey, somebody gives up their password, you know, somebody sends you a link, you click on it, hey, what's your username and password? We need it for IT. Somebody gives it to them. You know, we have tools to identify some of those things when they happen, but we can't stop that, somebody from giving their credentials away. So there's a little bit of a shared piece here, so I don't want to act like this, nothing's ever happened, but it's not where somebody's breached our data center or the AWS data center and stolen information. It's been more of how do we work together? We have tools. Amazon spends, you know, $1 billion a year on cybersecurity. So we have tools to identify those things. We work with your institution when we have it. We have our own cybersecurity team. So we had and we have that whether you're in the cloud or not. We'll help institutions out. So when they see something that doesn't seem right, we're reaching out to you proactively and saying, hey, something's not right here. And let's take a look at it. And sometimes we take a look and there's no issues. It's just, but we're always keeping an eye out for that.
So I'm looking at the SaaS software pricing, and it looks like it takes about a 22%, $70,000 jump from year one to year 5. Are these locked in contract rates, or?
These are, yeah, this is a contracted rate.
So there's no chance that we're going to be paying 30% more in 5 years instead of 22%?
No.
Any chance of 5% more instead of?
Well, basically what we do, and it's just like your renewal is today. So we sit there and depending on how far out you commit to, it reduces, you know, the longer you commit to, it reduces the increase. So whenever this is up, there'll be another renewal. If you want to renew for a year, you can, it's just more expensive. But if you want to renew for 5 years, then we're going to give you the best rate out there.
And up here, it says, assuming an 18-month implementation, if it takes longer, there's additional costs. What kind of things could make that take longer than 18 months?
I mean, we've been pretty confident, and a lot of times it's more the complexity. You see some larger, especially like systems where we're taking several people in the cloud. A lot of times we'll build that into more of 18 to 24 month. We don't expect this to take any more than 18. What may cause it, you know, usually it's things on the customer side. I think we've addressed all those. One of the things that's big is how are you integrating to your other systems? Again, we take an inventory of that. We've dug into that already. We don't see any issues there. Taking a look at how are you reporting. So we're going to redo some of those reports that we have to do. We've already built that in. We don't expect it. And to be honest with you, once you go 18 months, if there's, I would say 12 to 18 months, 18 months is going to be the longest. Basically, we had one school in Texas. They were supposed to go live in February of last year. They went live about a week late because that's when Snowmageddon hit. Nobody could make it to campus. They couldn't, I mean, and of course, when there's an act of God, things like that happen, we waive the fees for them. I mean, we're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna do that. Usually with only time we often hold you to those fees is whenever the institution's not sort of doing their end of the bargain and doing their work on their side. I don't foresee that being an issue.
I think the other piece, just kind of to add to what Brad had said there though as well, is what is in front of you there on the investment summary is worst case scenario on the professional services. So as we've had conversations, you know, some of these services that are projecting 20 hours of work may only come in at 15. We're only going to be billed for the hours of professional services that we receive. But what you have is a worst case scenario. But additionally, you know, over the course of this last year, we've been working with Lucian and they've been going in and reviewing our student information system just to be able to get a context and an idea of the length of time that it will take for this implementation. So they've had a chance to be able to gauge, determine through that work here over this last year, to be able to get the best projection of the need for services from that.
And
We don't have 18 months until this go live on the calendar. We've only got what, 15 from July to 1st of September? Is that realistic?
yeah, I mean, basically, it really is. That's what we're expecting. If you go quicker, you save money, to be honest with you. So the faster, once you get off your current system, I mean, we're giving you credit for that right away. So if you can do it in 9 months, then you're going to save quite a bit of money. We're expecting it to be closer to probably 12 to 15. 18 is, I mean, something went wrong somewhere if we're at 18. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, Carla made a good point there too. I mean, there's there's steps and measures that we've implemented already. You know, one of the examples would be one login, to where we're going with a system. We've implemented one login over the course of this last year, to where all software packages that we do have, you're not having to log in individually to those systems. So you're not having to remember 15 different passwords. You have one that allows you to be able to access and move into the various types of software that we have. And so this will help enhance and move along the transition with this move as well.
But like I said, we've done about 500, actually a little over than 500 of these moves to the cloud. So this isn't new to us. We've seen a lot of these things. We know what we're digging into. So we're very, very confident with what we have in front of them.
And they've been tremendous partners. I mean, they've been very responsive to questions that we've had. They understand that there is, I think with any move, anxiety that comes from a transition or change, but they also have been very responsive and understanding of the fact that there will be, and that's why the professional services are built in, the need to do some hand holding and help along the way in this transition process. So they've been a great partner.
What's the posture of our staff?
So we have an internal committee that's comprised of production offices, IT, IR. It's a compilation of a lot of different offices that we have had this same conversation with. They're the ones that have been involved in the conversations as Aleutian has been working with going in and reviewing our information system and getting a gauge for reporting and information that we have and what's stored. But the consensus 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with Aleutian and this committee. And the recommendation was that we needed to move forward with cloud hosting. At that point, the thought was there with that internal committee, managed cloud was going to be kind of the place where we thought we needed to be. But as we've had some ongoing conversations and realizing what it is that SaaS provides to us, they're more long-term on this transition, then the conversations really moved into, because of the cost savings between SaaS and managed cloud, because of the additional aspects of what you have as far as services through SaaS. The recommendation, the belief is that SaaS is the preferred method for us to transition to. So there's been conversations that have been occurring, of course of this past year, most recently as of 2 weeks ago when we met with this committee and Aleutian together.
On board with this. Just popping up 6 months down.
No, I don't. I mean, that's why I prefaced what I said there just a minute ago, that is there some anxiety? There's some concern anytime you do anything new, there's going to be some anxiety. But I don't anticipate any backlash or any storming of the gates or anything because of this decision. I mean, it's been one that we've been talking about. It's something that we've known through our planning process here over the course of the last 2 years, just in conversations. Eventually, we're going to have to go this way. That's why we wrote it into the legislative direct spending request. So, there's been very intentional steps that we've taken in order to get us to the point of where we're at here today.
So everybody understands, once we approve this, there's no
Well, I have communicated that to the committee last week. Communicated the fact that this recommendation was coming to the board. I've had, some conversations with a few of the committee members individually. So I don't want to go on record by saying that everybody's going to be 100% bought in. We're all going to be singing the same song. Everybody understands that this decision stands upon board approval. So it's been communicated. We've had those conversations, and any type of concerns that we have will be addressed so that we have a path forward, understanding that this is the best direction for the college.
This is the same thing that I've been through a
Mhm.
few bank buyouts and what changing everything. Sounds good at the beginning. You eventually get in there and say, "Oh, well, I've done this."
Mhm.
I don't want to see that happen. I think you're on the right track. I don't understand so much what we're really talking about in the process. And I want for sure, when we vote to do this,
Mhm.
there's no backing up, and y'all are gonna like it, whether you like it or not.
No, I think there is common understanding. I don't think there is common understanding that this is the path forward. This is the direction that we need to go. And I think, the reason why we have the internal committee we have, and it can be expanded and more inclusive as we need it. But the reason why we have that there is that so some of those concerns can be brought to the table. We can mitigate those at the point within the committee and try to eliminate any of the concerns that may exist. So there's a common understanding of the fact that this is the best decision for the college moving forward, and it propels us into being able to have better services available for students and our employees through this transition. I mean, and we've done, we have done several other modernizations and updates over the course of the last 2 years. So there's been a lot of change with IT, particularly through this pandemic. And, so I think the college as a whole has been very receptive and understanding of the fact that the change is going to happen. And sometimes it's going to happen regardless if we're on board or not. But there is common buy-in that this is the best direction for the college as we go forward.
Especially when you also look at the, end of life for, several of our servers. I agree with that.
Mhm.
I was just looking at this and the recommended board action, it just has the total cost for this year. If it's actually a 5-year contract, are we going back every year and vote on it, or do we need to vote on approving the 5-year contract instead of just this 1 year? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't want
that's
to
good.
get caught in a technicality that
Right.
you guys are signing a contract for 5 years and we approve 1 year at $650,000. And that's not
That's a
what
good
you're
one.
actually asking for.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I think in retrospect, it would be, since this is a 5-year contract, in retrospect, it would be best to go ahead and have the final amount of 2.7 whatever included within the motion, since this is a 5-year agreement. That's, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the expiration date of this contract is June 30th.
correct.
2028.
Yeah,
I know that dollar amount is more than 666.
yes. Yeah, no, it's a great point.
One more question that I have is, during this transition, will that shut down any of our services? I know when they update computers programs,
Mhm.
nobody can get on.
Well, what we're going to do on that is we'll be basically setting up the SAS system. We'll have that separate when everybody's going to continue to use the current system you have until we have the SAS system ready. At that point, what we'll do, and we'll have several test runs, but once we got everything, everybody agrees, hey, it's working like it should, everybody's on board on both our side and Garden City side, is when we'll have a weekend where we'll have a turnover. So everybody will go home on Friday, they'll show back up on Monday, and they'll be in the new system. So that's how that turnover works.
Okay.
So Carla, President Rubin, do you want to modify our agreement here that we're voting on tonight?
Yeah, I think the only thing within the motion is just to modify that the board is agreeing to the 5-year contract renewal with Aleutian, and the final cost being a 2.7. I'll have it in front of me, 5.2.
460. Yeah.
So I think that would be the only amendment there within the motion.
So if we get this done, is the 100,000 already taken off there? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, unless Brad wants to throw an additional $100 credit, which I think.
100,000
yeah,
per year.
Yes, yeah.
Let me call my wife real quick, see.
All right, let's see if I got this. I'm making a motion to approve the 5-year agreement with Aleutian to migrate CCC to SaaS environment utilizing the allocated grant dollars secured and general fund dollars for professional services and software. Total cost for the 5 academic years being $2,752,460. That
sounds
cover your needs?
Yes. Thank you.
I would second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the 5-year agreement with Aleutian for a total cost of $2.752,460 million. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Brad, thank you.
Thank
for
you,
the
Brad.
Of course.
Great explanations.
It's certainly not a requirement. Don't let it be a whole week.
Can't fly out tonight, so.
All right, moving on. Item G in the consent agenda is the Capers 457 resolution. And Dr. Ruda, I'll let you explain this one as well.
Yes. So this is an agreement. So within the state retirement system, there is your traditional Capers retirement package, which is a employer match program. And then there's also what is presented to you as far as Capers 457. This particular agreement, this is a state-sponsored compensation plan, but it is a separate retirement plan that is only available for municipalities. There are several school districts, community colleges, city, states currently that are members of this. It does take board action in order to have this as a deferred compensation retirement plan that can be offered to employees. What I would tell you within this, we have had several different conversations there as far as how it is that we can provide additional services and benefits to employees. This is not a match contribution retirement program. This is a employee-based retirement program. They can enter into this particular retirement program for as little as $12 a month. Does not require an institutional or employer match for this. This is strictly an employee retirement plan that is separate from the traditional Capers program. This particular program, as we've taken a look at it and had conversations, we feel like this is an added benefit for employees. We've actually had a few employees that have came forward and asked for this to be considered as an option just for retirement planning, retirement options. And again, it is a state-sponsored plan, so it is housed with the state of Kansas, which is why it takes action for the board to be able to list Garden City Community College as a entity that offers this particular program. If the board approves this resolution, which will be read, then just preparing to hear, getting a drink. If the board does approve this resolution, then we will work with the state of Kansas on paperwork on our side that completes the process for us to be listed as an approved employee option program. And then we can have this available for our employees here this next fiscal year for them to consider as a payment deduction plan there through Garden City Community College. So again, this is just it's a short resolution there that has no fiscal note tied to it for Garden City Community College, does not have a matching contribution aspect of it, but does provide some additional investment opportunities and benefits for employees for a deferred compensation plan through the state of Kansas.
So would our employees still be able to choose which one they want?
They can
to
do both. They can do
They can
both.
do both.
Mhm. Yeah, so they can do, yeah, so the way that Capers is, they can't contribute extra to Capers. So, Capers is a set amount that's, that's taken. This allows them to be able to have another state-sponsored plan that they can choose the amount that they want to be able to put in. So they can do both. Oh, yeah, I mean, so employees can choose to set it up there as an automatic deduct through their paycheck, through their payroll, which, will be offered to them there as an option. No,
Not on the first level, not on the regular papers.
correct, correct.
The Senate matches. So the only thing this really is going to quote unquote cost is some time doing the paperwork and processing from payroll, et cetera. And how cumbersome is that paperwork? I mean, it's a pretty.
All of the billing is electronic, so it's just a matter of balancing to make sure that, sometimes you have some oddities with start dates and that type of thing, but it's not cumbersome.
Not yet. Now that we have Tia Craft as one of those, will they be able to transfer that over to Keepers? And Keepers won't have the requirements of Tia Craft, that you can't take so much out or whatever?
No, the way our TI CREF plan is set up there is that you cannot transfer as long as you are an employee of Garden City Community College. So you would not be able to transfer CREF to this particular program.
As a retiree, can I transfer my Tia Craft to Keepers?
We just have to ask about that. I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, I know in Tia Craft, you can't take out
Certain amounts.
certain amounts on your regular savings account unless you do it in installment payments.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
Does that affect the actual resolution?
no,
Okay. All right. Well, these are things I'm not familiar with. To the detail of you in the education.
We can find that out,
though.
though.
Make sure I wasn't missing something.
now you can't do it. Now you can make that. You're not in the mood now?
Oh, yes, does she have to read the resolution? Go ahead.
It doesn't matter. I will.
She really
make a
does.
motion to approve resolution number 2022-6, a resolution authorizing a deferred compensation plan for the employees of Garden City Community College, Kansas. Whereas to enable Garden City Community College, Kansas to attract and retain in its employment persons of competence and to provide a means of supplementing the retirement benefits of Garden City Community College employees, and whereas the Kansas Public Employees Retirement System has entered into a group contract in conjunction with the Kansas Public Employees Deferred Compensation Plan for the provision of record keeping, communication, education, and investment management services. And whereas it is the desire of Garden City Community College to become a joint contract vendor with the state of Kansas of the group contract, and whereas it is the desire of Garden City Community College to encourage and support efforts of its employees to voluntarily participate in a tax-deferred compensation plan. Now therefore be it resolved by Garden City Community College, one, Garden City Community College elects to adopt the Kansas Public Employees Deferred Compensation Plan as its own plan is authorized by KSA 74-49B14. Two, Garden City Community College authorizes and approves execution of a plan joiner agreement to implement a deferred compensation plan. Three, further CFO, HR Director, Payroll Coordinator is authorized to execute all necessary documents.
I move that we, no, second, second one, or do you want to second it? Oh, I second it. It has not been a good day.
You know, the neat thing about this is the deferred, tax deferred compensation.
For tax dollars.
Right. So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2022-6. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. The last item that we need to work on for consent agenda is item J, the work comp resolution. Dr. Ruda.
One more resolution. So just take a drink and there you go.
I'm present. Go right ahead.
It's not.
So this particular resolution
Yeah, we don't have a
is,
copy.
as we've been going through and looking at each of our insurance policies and being able to go out and bring back competitive pricing and bids to the board for consideration. This particular resolution allows for consideration of Garden City Community College to be included in a Kansas municipal pool that includes municipalities, cities, schools. This particular option allows for, again, for the ability to bring back pricing comparisons and options as a part of this municipal pool in the state of Kansas. What this does by the college being included in this resolution is in order for us to come back and be included for pricing consideration with the board, the resolution must be approved so that Garden City Community College is considered an approved municipality underneath the Kansas municipal pool. This, again, does not have a fiscal note tied to it. We're not asking for approval on any type of insurance policy or anything that comes with this. Simply put, it is being able to ask for inclusion of Garden City Community College so that we can go out and seek pricing through the Kansas Municipal Pool Authority and have the ability. What this does is it gives us latitude to really broaden the scope of how it is that our liabilities are spread out among a broader distribution of groups. So again, by being included with other Kansas municipalities, colleges, schools, cities, counties, this broadens the scope as far as what it is that liability is spread across. So again, there's no fiscal note that is tied to this, no request for approval on endorsing an insurance policy for work comp at this point. Simply, this is latitude for Garden City Community College to be included in the municipal pool so that we can bring back pricing for consideration by the board on policies.
So would this be like when we were buying all those printers and everything, for example, and didn't have to go out for individual bids because there was already a state bid for everybody in that pool?
So they are going out by doing this, they're going out and essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are brokering and coming back with bids through this pool. So there will be multiple coverage plans that are presented to us there from companies by inclusion in this pool.
So would there be any downfall to this resolution?
Not that I foresee, no. nothing binding to it there. It's just including Garden City and the ability to have coverage options brought back to the table. Correct?
My one comment that I had thinking about this was that this is a opportunity for us to use a broader brush in looking for insurance plans, but we should also not exclude local brokers or vendors.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-7, Garden City Community College, State of Kansas, whereas the governing body of Garden City Community College has authority under the Kansas Municipal Group Funded Pool Act, KSA 12-2616, as sequence as amended, and the Interlocal Cooperation Act, KSA 12-2901, as sequence as amended, to participate in and form a group funded pool for workers' compensation coverage, and whereas the Board of Trustees cooperate with other municipalities to form such group funded pool entitled bylaws and interlocal cooperation agreement of the Kansas Municipal Insurance Trust, KMIT, a copy of which is attached here to and incorporated by reference to this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the stated municipality that one, the bylaws and interlocal cooperation agreement for the Kansas Municipal Insurance Trust, a copy of which is attached here to and incorporated by reference into this resolution is hereby approved. Two, the chairperson is hereby authorized and directed to sign the agreement on behalf of the municipality. Three, neither this resolution or the agreement is intended to, nor does it provide for coverage in excess of the limitation of liability within the Workers' Compensation Act, KSA 44-501, as prints or amendments thereto. Four, the municipality understands and further by execution of this resolution and the agreement agrees that it will comply with the requirements of the Workers' Compensation Act and amendments thereto, and further understands that in accordance with the bylaws and interlocal cooperation agreement, that the individual members of the cooperation may be subject to assessment of additional contributions under the circumstances described in the agreement. Five, one copy of the signed agreement shall be mailed to the full administrator of the Kansas Municipal Insurance Trust along with a copy of this resolution. One copy of the signed agreement shall be filed with the County Register of Deeds, and one copy of the signed agreement shall be filed with the Secretary of State of the state of Kansas.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2022-7. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
No more resolutions.
You guys really hit me hard tonight.
Yeah, we were on a run there. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
You did a very nice job.
Well, thanks.
All right, we are on agenda item number 3, other action, and that is to designate our agent for capers. Dr. Ruda, I'll let you explain.
So Alexis Signs will be moving in, has moved in as our payroll coordinator as of June 1st. She's currently training and transitioning underneath Pam Harms, who will be leaving Garden City Community College at the end of the month. In order for us to have a transition, Pam is currently listed as our designated agents. We need to make Alexis the designated agent for capers for this action.
Good choice.
So this is an action item. I move that we designate Alexis Sands as the designated agent for capers.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to designate Alexis Sains as the designated agent for capers. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That action is approved. All right, agenda item number 4, monitoring reports. And we are starting on page 91. There we go. The first monitoring report is for academic advancement. Students desiring academic advancement will be prepared for successful transfer to other colleges and universities. Number 1, 2, and 3, and the president's interpretation. I'll give you a minute to look through that and make any comments or have any questions. Does anybody else want to give any extra comments about this data?
I think this is one thing from the beginning of time that our transfer students have had to address, and the college has worked constantly to strengthen this with making better relationships with the transfer students. One of the things I think at KACC, probably we already have it, but I copied it with statistics on how our students transferred and so forth, so that's additional.
Mhm.
I think college is meetings, and I think that every chance they hear of a failure, they address it immediately and see if they can make it better.
So I had just a couple comments. We have Fort Hayes on campus here. So you would think that we would be the best
Mhm.
in transferring of credits. And there are, I think we are fifth from the bottom, actually, in transfer of credits to Fort Hayes. Oh, no more than that. We're fifth from the top.
Yeah.
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 Fifth from the top,
Yeah.
sorry. But what makes the difference between our 60 credits and Pratt's 72 credits?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things, and there's misleading information here that happens with this. And I'll kind of give a case example. So, if you remember back, I think it was 4 years ago that we made the transition at Garden City Community College from 64 hours on our associate's degree to 60. Well, we did that, and we did that in advance, knowing that at the 4-year level, bachelor's degrees were going to transition from 124 hours to 120. So really, the way that things work out right now, it's not in our best interest for students to have much more than 60 hours transferring in, because that's where you start to run into hours being lost in the transfer process. So on paper, we can have institutions that are showing 67, 70, 77 hours that are transferring into universities. Yes, more hours are transferring in, but many of those hours above 60 are transferring in as electives, which may not go towards degree requirements. So part of the work that we had during the state of Kansas, and I'll yield to Mark there for other comments there too, but part of the work that we're doing here in the state of Kansas is currently the 4-year institutions require that 60 hours be taken through their university in order to be able to be eligible for a bachelor's degree. So if we do have students that are transferring in with much more than 60, again, those hours are lost in the process and they're still having to take 60 hours at the 4-year level. So it's more about time to degree for us and trying to work with students to keep as closely aligned to that 60-hour mark as we can. So that's where you see some differentiation on the hours and number of hours transferring. But I would yield to Mark for anything else.
I'll give you an example. I know this is way back in the dark ages. I graduated 15.5 hours for first and college. On my paper transcript, they accepted all 84. But the degree, what counted for the degree was the 64 hours because I had to take their 64 hours to make the 140. So I never lost them, but it's just a matter of, I mean, look, at Pratt Community College, 72.4, there's no way 72.4 hours counted as part of the baccalaureate degree.
Correct.
Counted, but not the extra.
Yeah, you're not losing the hours, you're losing the hours in the application to degree.
And saving money.
The student
Yeah.
is actually paying for 12 credit hours that they don't need,
Correct,
basically, probably,
correct.
that's what.
Yeah.
that's what you're
So
saying.
some of it's, I mean, it's absolutely a mindset thing that we can enroll students in 72 hours and they can have 72 hours of transfer. It's not best, it's not what's best for students.
Right, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And
Thank
some
you.
of those could be things like, in my case, it was like orchestra, band, choir, things like that, that were not required on any degree. Maybe they were
Mhm.
not at my age, they weren't.
Correct.
All right. The second monitoring report is A2 asset protection. It's on page 97. Assets shall not be unprotected, inadequately maintained, or unnecessarily risked. And accordingly, the president shall. And you can see that number 5 was updated from our last month's action. Make any purchase of over $150,000 without competitive bids and due consideration regarding cost, quality, and service. Interpretation is on the next page. Pretty simple. I'll give you a minute to review it.
We don't have the part B. I thought I'm reading the minutes here. President shall not make any purchase between 50 to 149,999 without competitive pricing and due consideration regarding cost, quality, and be over 150. The way it's worded, it just kind of gives the unended. There is no be over this dollar amount. We got to do something with the 7, because you can't acquire an asset over 50. So there's no point in having 5 if 7's left. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So just looking at the notes, it looks like number 5 needs the part B, and number 7 needs to be updated to match 5.
Would that work for both acquired and dispose of?
I guess that's up for discussion as far as the purchasing. I'm just looking at.
No, I see what you mean.
minutes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean,
But if you're gonna bump up disposing to 100,
I just didn't want us to run into any troubles because
true.
we had conflicting.
true because it's actually taken care of in number 5. If you take off required.
As long as we correct kind of the contradiction. when it-
Just having it list dispose of assets over 50. Just have-
That's what I'd say.
50 or 150.
Well, yeah. And then add the part B to number
Yeah.
5.
Because how this is worded does not match what's in the minutes for the motion. It's on page 12. Is the actual motion. That's not what number 5 says.
In our minutes,
Yeah, page 12 in our handout, out the minutes from last meeting.
Right. Shanda, I agree. I think number 5 should read exactly like we talked about it last month.
Yeah, I think this kind of leaves out some details. that are
Correct.
Part of what was approved.
Yeah, just take that motion.
So that's
To number
just
5.
A correction
Yeah.
really to match. the minutes.
And then number 7 has just a little bit different connotation in that the president shall not acquire or dispose of assets valued over 50,000. So there's 2 parts to that, right?
But see, if that 50,000 matched the over of the last time, so that's why if we have the 150 is the or over on the part B of 5, it just seemed to make sense that 7 should coincide with that. Because if we say you can't acquire anything over 50,000,
Contradicts
that
number
kind
5.
of makes 5 null and void.
Right.
So
I
Yeah,
think
It's a good point.
just
adjust
Yeah.
it to match 5 is,
Take acquire off and just have
take
it
the
as
word
dispose.
acquire out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, currently, what do we do? What's the process now? You know, says you cannot dispose of assets valued over 50,000. Well, say the turf over there. That was over 150, wasn't it? Replacing it, you got rid of it.
Well,
The redeemable value? No, probably not.
Well, usually by the time you dispose of something, it's, yeah,
Right,
appreciation is almost none anyway.
correct.
No, it's more that the president doesn't have permission to do any disposal of any
Large amount.
property or equipment or assets
Correct.
over $50,000. But under 50,000, he has that decision-making to make that
We have that in policy.
purchase or sell. He wants to sell a printer.
Yeah, and I mean, as Carla alluded to, I mean, we have a policy that dictates what our procedures and processes are there for disposal of items.
Jody, do we review asset protection in the next, on the monitoring calendar?
So we review it the next month.
Okay, so we could make those suggestion, the number 7 suggestion next month, but the number 5 we've already approved.
Yeah, that should just
Right.
be a correction.
Yeah.
Right.
Good catch. Dr. Ruta's interpretation is pretty straightforward. Any questions about asset protection aside from what Shanda's discovered? A3, compensation and benefits, starts on page 99. With respect to employment, compensation and benefits to employees, consultants, contract workers, and volunteers, the president shall not cause or allow fiscal integrity or public image to be jeopardized. And I'll let you read through his interpretations. We welcome any of your comments. Any comments? Bless you. All right, hearing no comments on A3, I suggest that we accept the monitoring reports as presented with the exception of A2 and our correction suggested. And then we will also evaluate at the next meeting. All right. No, you did good. You did good. Thank you.
That's what our job is.
All right. Reviewing monitoring report is page 103. Treatment of people with respect to treatment of students, employees, volunteers in the community. Dealings shall not be inhumane, unfair, or undignified. This language does come from the Carver books. I don't have any recommendations for changes. So Jody, I'm going to ask you another monitoring question. Number 5 and 6, did we put that on the monitoring calendar? Hold on.
Just be under the same, one. Under this one.
Yeah. I didn't see it on mine, so.
I'm not
yeah.
seeing it either.
Okay, so we can sit down and find a spot for it.
Mhm.
We revised it in March of last year.
Mhm. 5 and 6.
It's an annual review, so probably what we should do is just put it on for February or March.
Mhm.
Or leave it number 5 and 6. We can leave 1 through 4 where it is. How's that sound?
Mhm.
All right. Any other comments about language for treatment of people before we move on? No. Agenda item number 5, any public comments? New?
Nope.
Our only public already commented.
Yeah, he's already commented.
They clicked on me hard.
All right. Dr. Ruda, your report?
Yeah, a few items. Just wanted to congratulate the Garden City Community College Nursing Department on their successful completion of the ASIN accreditation for the RN program. They successfully completed their accreditation visit and had a very strong report that came back. So their next evaluation visit will not be until fall of 2029. So we had a celebration there with the administrative team and nursing faculty because there's a considerable amount of work that goes into not only the preparation, but the hosting and successfully completing the accreditation visit. So kudos to Patsy and the nursing faculty on that end. Couple of student accolades. The Bronkbuster track team produced a national runner-up, as well as 5 All-Americans at the 2022 NJCAA National Championship. Dennis Mutai was just edged out at the end and was the national runner-up in the 5K, which earned him All-American status. Dennis was also selected as the Male Track Athlete of the Year by the U.S. Track and Field Coaches Association. So great, great honor and congratulations to Dennis. The other 4 busters who earned All-American status were Kevin Chariot, Debonair Williams, Shireen Chariot, and Valentine Legat. So congratulations to those individuals and all of the team and the coaches on a great season. For the spring 22 semester, we had a total of 585 students who made the honor rolls, which is over half, 58.7% of the qualified students that are enrolled during this past semester. The president's designation, we had 196 achieve a semester GPA of 4.0, 307 received the vice president's at a semester GPA between 3.2 to 3.99. And then the remaining students, 82, completed the honorable mention designation of a 3.0 to 3.19. So we had started a process here a couple of years ago. And thanks to Jody and Maddie for helping in this process, where we send out a postcard congratulating the students. And as part of that, they're on the postcard. They also get a discount that they can present to the bookstore with a postcard that gives them a discount in the bookstore for items for being on the honor roll. So yeah. You're gonna try to take that to the bookstore for discount and yeah. A few last comments, enrollment updates for summer 22 as of this morning. We were up 3.2% in head count, right at 3% in credit hours for summer session. Our fall 22 semester is trending very well. Again, just a comparison and let's not get misled by the numbers because things will shake out as we get closer. But for the fall 22, as of this morning, head count was up 54%. Credit hours 56%. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that we have transitioned to online enrollment, online admissions. So there is a better tracking system through that funnel process that helps transition students in a much more seamless manner. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that there through those numbers. This past weekend, we hosted Bike Across Kansas. We had over 600 individuals that found about every piece of shade they could on campus. About every tree had a tent underneath it. But I, again, just want to give credit where it's due as far as to our grounds and maintenance, custodial staff, IT staff for their help and coordination on this event. And also, probably the biggest thank you to Miss Jody for spearheading and coordinating all the efforts, as well as being out here with me at 4:30 in the morning on Sunday to serve coffee and make coffee to 600 bikers before they got on the road there as well. So thank you.
Here, here.
Last 2 points there in front of you, we have a Royals Kansas City Royals Media Guide, Garden City Community College, because we have an alumni who is very invested in the Royals organization with Dayton Moore and in management. Felt like it was worthwhile to be able to support him as an alumni, but also to advertise. It's a good piece of, it's a new venue for us in the advertising venue. We chose to advertise our online distance education within this media guide and just wanted you to have a copy of it. What page? Oh, where the blue,
He's also in our,
oh, it's where the blue tab is at in your,
he's also in our Hall of Fame.
yes,
Yeah, he is.
yeah. And then last piece, just would ask for the board, so we will have the need for a special board meeting specifically on property and casualty insurance, as well as athletic insurance. Since we have, and I think you brought this point up there, but since we have a board retreat scheduled already on June 29th, instead of trying to look for a different date, I would entertain a request that since we have the retreat starting at 8 o'clock that day, that we would look at 7:30 for a special board meeting on June 29th for those three items. So property casualty insurance and athletic insurance. Any opposition to 7:30 on that day? Other than it being 7:30, yeah.
You're okay with 7:30?
That afternoon.
Well, the agenda
Yes,
starts-
we're okay with that.
The agenda starts at 9 actually on that day, so we wouldn't have to do 7:30. So
What?
Jody had mentioned that the agenda doesn't have us starting until 9 o'clock.
Oh,
So if we wanted to do 8:30, we could.
that sounds better. 8:45.
I can only give you to
8:30 it is.
That's all I have.
So as we were talking about the special things that our faculty and students have done, it made me think about what can we do as a board to say, we thank you for your hard work and your participation. Do you guys have any ideas? The only thing I thought of was that we could have some cards that we each sign and send out on a monthly basis. Unless you guys have other ideas.
Could we put another full page ad with all those stats and thanking the faculty and staff in that? So it's in the paper, or let the community know how hard they're working.
Ideas? I mean, I like that idea, but I was thinking something even more personal.
Well, we can do both.
Well, yeah. I like the idea of doing something publicly to acknowledge that it might be more of a Facebook post.
So the decreased readership.
Yeah. Or, I
Or
mean,
both.
we could do that, both approaches.
Think about it and see if we can come up with some other ideas. It is part of our responsibility to acknowledge and reward our hard workers, so. Okay. Report from Finney County Economic Development.
No report.
All right, report from KCCT.
Couple things, it was in Colby. Some people were in more exciting places, but Colby was okay. Interesting couple things, and this probably shouldn't be included, but I do want to share it with you because, I mean, it is kind of funny. There were 4 of us sitting in the lobby. We got there probably 2:15. They informed us that they could not make any changes on the rooms that were available. It was confusing and all this. So we were on the third floor on the very end, and those were the very last rooms. We just barely got our rooms in time to go to the meeting. The second thing was, got home in the evening, went by the pop machine to get me a couple bottles of water. Well, I didn't have any change for them, you know, they were $2 a bottle, so I went downstairs to the desk and I had my 2 bottles of water and I gave them the $20 bill. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't take 20s. You'll either have to put it on your college expense or put it on your own credit card. So my own credit card has been charged for $4 of water. Just a little fun thing there when you're doing different hotels. I put 3 things on your stack of things. And Jody had given one. The first one is the single sheet GCCC June quarterly meeting recap. I'll talk about some of those things specifically if you have questions. But after we had presentations and after we wrote, she sent them to us. And the reason I gave them to you, I thought, well, I could just refer you to them. But there are good statistics in here about community colleges, Garden City Community College, particularly the one on building the future, which is the annual report of the regions. And if after you read it, you don't want them, I suggest give them to Jody because there may be people, as we do our North Central stuff and so forth on the campus, that one might be interested in some of those things. The second one is the ACCT, which is our association. And it has some things like enrollment trends. I mean, it's just kind of interesting perspective. So those are just strictly for your news. But I thought there were things in there that are very important statistics. So as we went through the meeting, it was they had different presentations, and one of them was about at Astra Higher Education Consulting. Approximately 40% of the students feel course access is are we shooting ourselves in the foot the way we put the schedule together for students access and so forth. It was interesting. Johnson County, Kansas City, Kansas, and Butler are clients of this particular higher education consulting. It was interesting. The person who was presenting and all we saw was her name, and it was Laura Kelly. We thought, oh my gosh, our governor, what's she doing here? Well, the Kelly is spelled different. It was not the same Laura Kelly. And then as we went through different things, I had property casualty, insurance management issues, and I gave the copy that they gave us to Carla. And different things. The interesting thing was that the G. Hangley, the ACCT, and number 6, he's the CEO of the AACCT. If any of us were exchanging as he was elected and so forth. Here it is. Okay. Number 8 is something I want to point out to you. State issue. Look at number 8. Discussion on the community college budget request for next year occurred as well as brief discussion of other state issues, including a legislative post office audit, which has been proposed due to the concern about the number of out-district, out-of-state student athletes at Kansas community colleges and how athletics and athletic scholarships are being funded. And they did mention that one of the community colleges doesn't have a Kansas student. So there are some concerns, I guess, in the legislature, which is how are we funding this and so forth. Something we're going to deal with in particular. I think they're going to look at the biggest program, of course. Ryan will take care of us on that.
Mhm.
If you have any questions about any of those things, feel free to, as you look them over, if you have any questions. I was going to point out, number 7, Heather Morgan truly is a gift to Kansas community colleges. What the Kansas Board of Regents misinterpret and don't understand at all, she can really make points for us. I mean, they will try to tie us to things that have absolutely no effect on us at all. And will be big concerns to them. And the number of issues are very aware of this as well as us. And one of the things, they closed our office. She didn't have any reason to have an office every month. She hangs out where some of the letter I get. So they gave us all, I guess we had, every college had a picture of something on the campus. So they gave those back. One of the things that schools are, I just want to mention just a few things here, and then I'll let but they were talking about different ways that they're trying to make up for faculty salaries, staff salaries, and so forth, without killing them. And I did not realize that they've been on probation for issues of fundings. I mean, they were literally going broke, but I think their president has, he's young, but he's brought that back in. I don't think they thought for a while they could make pay or even pay the bills. The Osho mentioned something, they give Friday afternoons off of work. So that's a 36-hour week, but they still pay their employees for 40. So that was one way to make up for some salary adjustments there. Less employees, better paid. And then as you look at that number 7, she passed that strategic plan, paperwork, and different things. Those are just a few things she does. Meeting is in Fort Scott, August 26th and 27th. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you don't have any questions tonight, later on, and I can always take suggestions back to you.
So I have a question about number 8. Do we have an official stand on for as the 19 community colleges from GCCC or the council of presidents on how many? I know we stopped or we took away the limit of out-of-state tuition scholarships, right,
Mhm.
At
for
this point,
athletes.
Mhm.
is
So
up strictly
Right.
to the individual colleges as long as you don't, regulations on how your scholarship is.
Yeah, so football is the only one that limits or has limits set there for out of state at this point. So
it does have limits.
football. Mhm. Yeah, so you must have on the 50, yeah. Well, yeah.
What is it?
55 out of state.
On
Okay,
an 85-man roster.
85 total roster.
Mhm.
I remember at one time when it started, it was like 10 out of state for football, 5 for basketball. Then it went to 12 and 6. Those were the only sports that had a limit ever.
I think I mean, you're right. I mean, to your question there, as far as a stance, because this is a legislative post audit, we don't have the option of not complying and not completing the information. But we are working towards being able to have a consistent spreadsheet. So the reporting that's going in is apples to apples as far as what's being reported. But I think the fallacy is, as we've had these conversations, the fallacy, the frustration. Why are we not including the four-year institutions in this conversation as well? I mean, we are picking apart the two-year sector, but 4 years are state supported just as much as what the two-year sector is. And they're not a part of the legislative post audit. So, I guess it's, as we look at it, yes, we're going to comply. Yes, we're working together. Actually, that's one of the things I'm going to be working with a group of other presidents here in Topeka this week. When I head down there tonight is working on coming up with the template and discussing how it is that we're going to respond to the legislative post audit request. But I think that's the conversation that we go back with. There is, it's not a level playing field there when we're not looking at all entities that receive state support on what their numbers are for in-state and out-of-state.
Well, and one of the things, the geographic thing, look, there's 5 community colleges in southeastern Kansas. There are enough students there if they had, like I said, all in state. Where are they gonna go? They're gonna come to our area. So 4 years up there in the corner, it's just, it's hard to get your efforts. And this goes back to the past, when I was recruiting, I could not go into a county that had a community college to recruit students unless we were offering them a programs we did not have. See, I was in Leon County and I had to have permission from.
We'll have some good discussions, I'm guessing, as this progresses, so. Report from faculty, Senate, no. Accreditation update, Mark. Dr. Malone.
Mark is great. Just a couple of things, no PowerPoint tonight, as we're gearing up for our mock visit, July 18th. This is item 1. You all know this date already, but just clarifying or confirming it, July 18th at 6 p.m. in this room, there'll be a special board meeting that is the Board of Trustees mock session with our 2 external mock reviewers. And then the second item is that prior to that, you will receive a printed copy of the draft of the assurance argument for your perusal. It won't have all of the every piece of evidence linked inside of it, but it will give you an understanding of what we are reporting on. The goal for us to have that draft done is the 22nd. Please forgive us as we, if we move past that a little bit, but it is going well. Those are my 2 items for a very brief update.
Ownership linkage, anything anybody would like to share? All right.
I can start off just real quickly. I was able to go to the drafting and welding meetings. And I was very impressed. They have done a tremendous job of, especially in welding. Now this was last month, on track to enroll 24 students for the fall of 2022, which would make them the full class. They had a FFA welding competition. Unfortunately, Hutch dropped out, so it was just 2 schools from Salina and Garden City Community College. 46 students attended for this FFA district. The annual GCCC welding competition had 36 students from 12 different high schools attending. They have been recruiting and really feel as though things are looking up. And I mean, as far as continuing this surge, they also had high school drafting and welding teachers that are kind of helping ship their students to Garden City Community College. Very impressed.
Yes. Oh, I forgot. I did attend also the computer science advisory meeting on 13th and 19th. There were 457 is there also. One thing I thought maybe I should clarify, right above that, when it says that I learned that one of our alums, it's one of our recent ones. I mean, it's one of our graduates, just graduated, was hired by the minister. I thought that's amazing. I mean, not amazing, but yeah, it's a 2-year program. Right. It's a 2-year program, and I remember when they started it, they said, you know what? These are gonna be third Western Kansas nursing needs, not maybe necessarily ever supervisors. And the funny thing is, from the day the program started, they were hiring our students that were supervisors. It's just it's a great program, as Dr. Lewis mentioned, all limitation. Yeah, I don't understand why they're saying been out there for years and years and years. No, this is a brand new student they wanted.
Any other items to share? I just remind you to fill out the board self-assessment, and I'll briefly talk about last month's assessment. Of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions, we were all in agreement with those answers. There was on number 3, conversations encompass confidentiality. One person said no, but 5 of us said yes. And this is in reference to last month's board meeting. So I wanted to just ask you, when we come up with something like this, how do we proceed to investigate it or look at it? Do you guys have questions or have comments or ideas? Because it's nice that we have this tool, but we got to make it useful and meaningful.
Would that be something we can address in further retreat?
I agree with that.
And we might get some outside ideas.
I agree with that. As I was looking through the trusteeship book, it talked about that the chairperson could be available to anybody who has a comment. And if it was a comment about the chairperson, make the comment to Dr. Ruda. But then the second step was to handle the information in the retreat format. So I think what it builds up to is developing a policy to address any behaviors that happen at a board meeting that are against our code of conduct.
And I think how we need to address things varies whether it's a one-off or a continuous pattern, meeting after meeting. Because anything can happen and be a one-off.
Sure.
Anybody can have a bad night or whatever, or a heated discussion. So I think the most important thing is the patterns, the long term.
I would not ever want to use this forum as a place to discuss a personal comment. So that's why I like the idea of the retreat. So if that's okay with you, we'll consider that part of our retreat discussion. The last question on our assessment about HLC, 6 of 6 people indicated number 4, that they agree that things are becoming more clear about the board's role in HLC. All right. I think the only thing I need to remind you about is that in July, our board meeting will be on the 3rd Tuesday instead of 2nd Tuesday. And there is no executive session tonight. Does anybody have any other items? Then I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I gotta read that, but, you know.